a group of individuals coming together to revive the beloved and fading across various age groups. Today, I am pleased to announce that we have now established a legal entity entrusted with the noble task of expanding this vision to positively impact the education sector and on a broader scale. Hence today, we officially launch Education Champions League. The Education Champions League is dedicated to bridging gaps in quality and interpersonal communication and nation building through promotion of reading, writing amongst young people and all generations. By providing a framework and platform for international intellectual discourse and debate, the ECL aims to cultivate a culture of critical thinking and civic engagement with our communities. The ECL will organize quizzes and debates among secondary schools and promote book reading, writing across different genres. As we progress, we call upon all of us in education to lend their support to ECL, support various funds to keep the momentum going and to propel us forward in our predetermined destination. This endeavor is for our children. This endeavor is for us. This endeavor is for the sake of our country. Thank you for your process.
Thank you, sir, the chairman of the ECL, Education Champions League, which is an offshoot of the August meeting. Round of applause once again for Sodi. My pleasure at this point in time. The idea is we want to do all the needful as much as possible within time of 3 hours. That's the time frame we have. We always endeavor to ensure that we don't waste the necessary time, because we could have chosen to be anywhere else, but yet you are here today, so we always like to make this very snappy and very straight to the point. My pleasure to welcome the chairman of the event. I don't know what to say about him. If he stands up, you already know everything about him. That's the quality of this person. Dr. Dakuku Adol Peterson.
Good morning, Lord. Good morning. Our chief host and convener, Honorable Mr. Kinsey, Mr. Wall, the celebrant of the day, former minister, Bolaji Abdulllahi. Our chief launcher. I don't know whether I became chief launcher. Chief of Vela is that the engineer and the auntie of the day, Mrs. Osito, and our own icon of the day, Dr. Emeke. Professor Emeke, and a lot of, I've seen Mr. Sylvia, so at all. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I extend a warm welcome to each one of you to the Q1 August meeting, organized by the August meeting committee, organizing committee in the month of March. August meeting taking place in the month of March. As you are aware, is a gathering that not only celebrates our unity across political divides, but also emphasizing the transformative power of knowledge and the profound impact of reading on our lives. Something unique about this particular edition has been mentioned by the chairman of the governing board. We shall be launching the Port Harcourt Education Champions League, the Education Champions League. I want to believe that it's the first of its kind in this part of the world. And we commend the August meeting for this initiative. Today, as we embark on a journey of intellectual exploration, I invite you to reflect with me on the timeless importance of reading and the enlightening experience that books offer all of us. In the complex structure of human existence, reading stands as a thread that interconnects the essence of our understanding, empathy, and growth. Books are windows into the soul, the present, and the past. If you ask anyone here, what is your favorite book? Which book are you reading at the moment? If you're discerning enough, you can say exactly a lot about the person. In those good days, if somebody is always reading James Harvey Chase, you can say the kind of person he is. If he's reading just any of these romantic novels, the Mills and Bones of those days, you can also say. And if you're like me, you're reading Adam Grant, Simon Sinek, you can also decipher, you can say what kind of person that man or woman is. So it's indeed a window into the soul. And if a man tells you, I've not read a book in the past 5 years, oh, a lot more, it's a lot more easier to know what kind of person he or she is, a man or woman. Books can also make you cry, smile, or laugh. It can make you, it can fire your dream. But they do a lot besides making you laugh, smile, or even dream. And this speaks to emotional connection that can help improve our brain power, relieve stress, and fire our imagination. Books do all of that. And from the earliest civilizations to the digital age that we are today, you know, when you can read a book without holding a physical copy of the book, the act of reading has been a cornerstone of learning, enlightenment, and cultural preservation. We still learn about the history of great Egyptian civilization, not because we were there, but through the pages of books. You can travel. I still recall many years ago, my friend told me about South Korea, even before I first went to South Korea. And he knew the geography of South Korea, he knew the culture of South Korea, and their ways of doing things. He hadn't touched South Korea before. They had traveled just because they had the opportunity of reading books. Consider for a moment the stories that have left an indelible mark in your mind and heart. When there are tales of heroism, narratives of human struggle, or insightful accounts of historical events, e-book has contributed to the rich tapestry of life. If you read China Acheru Things Fall Apart, it can connect you to what life in Igbo settings was like some 50 to 100 years ago, even when you were not there. And so, books are not just mere collection of words. Like I said earlier, they are windows into diverse realities. Mirrors reflecting our own experiences, and bridges connecting us to the vast reservoir of human knowledge. Books does all of it. However, at the core of our gathering today is the recognition of the transformative power of literature and history. We are privileged to engage with the book on the Platter of Gold, How Jonathan Won and Lost Nigeria, by Bolaji Abdulllahi, a journalist by excellence, and an insider at the time of the events that were recorded in this book. A key student of history, and political development. A man whose inquisitive mind is known and acknowledged countrywide. Somebody whose intellectual power he has put at the disposal of public service. And so, that's a book the Augustine chose for the quarter. And it's a book that offers a compelling narrative of political intrigue, leadership dynamics, and the complexities of power in Nigeria. And I invite you to go through this book, not just a book of history, not just an account of what happened, not just an analysis or an insider perspective of what transpired. Through the lens of this book, we're invited to delve into the life and times of former President Goodluck Jonathan, a figure who rose from obscurity to the pinnacle of power in such a short period that his story is both inspiring and thought-provoking. A story that reminds us of the intersection of what nature can do to a man and positioning. The narrative unfolds a tales of resilience, ambition, and the myriad challenges faced by leaders in navigating the turbulent waters of politics and governance. Nothing in this life can stop us from enjoying our time here. As we immerse ourselves in the pages of the Platter of Gold, let us not merely read, but engage in the process of critical inquiry, introspection, and dialogue. Let us ponder the themes of leadership, accountability, and ethical dimensions of political stewardship. Let us draw parallels within the events depicted in the book and the contemporary challenges facing our society today. Have we made a lot of progress from where we were in 2015 and where we are today? Do we still have gods of power in charge of our political process? Or are the people of Nigeria now in charge of their own political life? Disciplines and judgment. Let us also recognize that reading is not just a solitary pursuit, but a communal endeavor that fosters intellectual discourse and collective wisdom. That's why we're here. A book is authored by somebody, read by another person, and applied by so many other persons. So it's not just a Bolaji Abdulllahi affair and the author's affair. It's actually a communal engagement. We even enjoy books more when we can discuss it, relate to real life experiences, engage on the basis of the book and the ideas encapsulated in the book. With not only do we enrich our own understanding, but also contribute to the collective pool of knowledge that shapes our collective destiny when we read books. As we navigate the nuanced narratives and the compelling arguments presented in the book of the quarter, let us also approach our discussions with open mind, curiosity, and the spirit of camaraderie. Let us embrace the diversity of opinions and perspectives, recognizing that it's true, respectful dialogue and engagement that will foster a culture of intellectual vibrancy and growth, which is what the August meeting is trying to promote. A culture of reading, intellectual engagement, cross-fertilization of ideas, and most importantly, the application of intellect in public affairs. That appears to be a challenge. Those who run our public affairs don't even believe that there is an intellectual dimension to running of public affairs. They think that if you can share money, that's just good enough for you to run or manage public office. But that must change. In closing, I urge each one of you to cherish the gift of reading, to continue exploring the vast realms of literature, and to embrace the transformative power of ideas. May our discussions today inspire us not only to get knowledge, but also to apply it in creating positive change in our communities and beyond. I join the management of the August meeting to appreciate you all for your presence, your enthusiasm, your commitment in the pursuit of knowledge. If you had an opportunity like myself of checking out the social media, you will notice that this trended for some time. The August meeting trended for some time. My friends across the length of breadth of Nigeria got in touch, trying to find out what the August meeting was all about, or it's all about. Enjoy this section and maybe a source of inspiration and enlightenment to all of us. Thank you for honoring this invitation, and I want to especially thank Bolaji Abdulllahi, my friend, former minister, who is a very busy man. In fact, he's working on his new book, which has to do with encouraging students to study history. And so when he found time to be here, he's been in Port Harcourt since yesterday. This is a testament to his level of commitment and his dedication. Mr. Bolaji Abdulllahi, thank you very much. And I know that for all of us gathered here, it will be experienced like no other. Let's engage, let's go. God bless you.
You know, give a politician 5 minutes to speak publicly. Chances are that you might go on for like half an hour. And again, you could see the way his voice transformed. I think I even preferred him speaking without the microphone. Sure. It started sounding like Martin Luther King. I was like, oh, he's got a dream. I'm going to help him achieve that dream. Thank you so very much, Dr. Mrs. Thank you so very much. Bring back to the getting and closer to the meat of the day. But as a mark of encouragement, the management of the August meeting decided this edition that we should find a way to bring in authors based in Port Harcourt into this forum. And it's in that light we'll be introducing 2 books written by Port Harcourt-based authors. The first one will be 1,000 Times on the Same Road, written by China Acheru. If China is here, should please come around and introduce this book to us. The contents, the idea behind it, and what most likely we're going to talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Let me stand on all existing protocol. I was told I have 10 minutes to speak, so my time starts now. In 1985, I was a third-year student in secondary school, and I used to enjoy following the Nigerian League. I couldn't watch because I was one of those they call as reporter children. My parents were go to the stadium, so I would listen to radio commentaries, buy newspapers. And when the season ended, I realized there was a lot of confusion in Nigeria. We couldn't figure out who was highest scorer in the league. Not that it mattered previously, that had top scorers like Adokia Messimaka, Ifan Edika, Thompson Lucien, Richard Ogokiri, but in 1985, it was the first time there was an award for the top scorer, sponsored by Cadbury. Now, when the league ended, those of us in Port Harcourt celebrated that David Snow, who played for Sharks, was the top scorer with 9 goals. All of a sudden, a man named Bini, Efusa Osai, who played for NME, came up and said he had scored 10 goals. And the Nigerian Football Association had no idea who was the top scorer in the league. And my 13-year-old self at that time, who had taken them before the league, was disappointed that the NFA did not have those records to tell us who was highest scorer in the league. The head of the committee, after a few weeks of deliberation, they came up to say, Owumi scored 9 goals, he was top scorer. Efosa Osayi had 8 goals. How they did it, don't know. But by 1986, I chose to start keeping records. So instead of each year, I would buy notebooks, this long HP notebook, my league book, and I was taking records. How did I get my records? I spent all my pocket money buying newspapers. Champion, Sketch, Tribune, Guardian, Punch, Tide, Chronicle. I was buying everything. Now in 1989, I was already a Uniport student, and I went to the stadium for the first time to watch a game between Sharks and NEPA of Lagos. Game ended 3-1. When I went home, one of my excitement at watching the game, finally at the stadium, I scribbled down somewhere that I'd watched the game, Sharks versus Nepal. And I kept on doing that. In 2017, I went to the family house and I saw all my old files. And I gathered them. I started tallying all the games I've watched at different stadiums. My journey has taken me all over Nigeria. There are only 2 states I've not watched football in Nigeria. I've been to about 16 African countries. I've been to the World Cup. I've been almost everywhere watching football. And I tallied 947 games. And I was shocked at that time. So I called some friends. I said, have you heard of any Nigerian who has come out to say, I've gone to the stadium 1,000 times to watch football? And they said, no, that we know of. I said, it might just be me. How do you know? I'm looking at it. One of them drove to my house and we looked at everything I've gathered. He said, let's plan for the 1,000th game. So we started planning. I created a hashtag on Twitter. Hashtag Equariman1000. Right? And there was a second hashtag, this football safe. And whenever I watch a new game, I go to the hashtag and say game number 950, game number 951. And I kept on doing that. By 990 games, I got a call from a fellow of the BBC. And his call was simple. He said, my bosses in London are aware of your claims. I said, you call it a claim? He said, yes, a claim. Can you prove you're on the verge of watching 1,000 games? If you can prove it, BBC will send a team to wherever that game is holding and they'll cover the game. He flew into Port Harcourt, and after called the press conference, they looked at everything I had, match reports, photographs, match tickets, diaries. And my 1,000 game on the 15th of April 2018 between Goron FC and Niger Acheru was covered by the BBC. But on that day I was asked, now you've done 1,000 games, what's next for you? I said, if you've been to the stadium 1,000 times, you must have 1,000 stories to tell. And that was where I got the idea of a book. Now, it's not a book of statistics. It's not a book that will tell you who scored this goal or who scored that or who got the red card. No. It's a story of Nigerian football. It's a story of love, a story of passion, a story of adventure, a horror flick. I remember that people Peter said, I used to travel with all these a lot. I remember you were in Ghana in 2005. I'm actually, you were not in Ghana in 2005 in Accra. But you heard the story of when we mistakenly took a plane load of area boys to Ghana and it destroyed the airport in Ghana. He wasn't on that train. I told stories in my book. So I wanted people to look at Nigerian football away from Sharks playing 0 or Camouflage 4 and not anymore. Away from that. I wanted to look at football beyond what happened on the pitch. It's a compelling story. Now, people say things about themselves, right? And people say a lot of false things about themselves. But I assure you, if you pick up this book and survive the first 2 pages, you won't put it down. That's what it's about. It's a story that grabs you from the inside and doesn't stop until you complete it. So I present to you 1,000 times on the same road. It's the story of Nigerian football that is not the football itself. So when people say, Mr. China wrote a football story, I say, no, I don't write a football book. I wrote a book. Where did I get my inspiration from? Somebody mentioned some names, Chioma Ezenwafor. Mine came from the theater. I read almost all his books. Secondary school. But when I went for the first time in 2006, I went to his house. I was studying, I was researching on some history. I went to his house. And I had to read all his books again. His concubine, his great woman, man of the people, the slave, Sonnet in Biafra. I had to read all his books again. And I noticed something about him. His writing is simple. Short, simple sentences. He explains what he wants you to know. And that's why when the ESPN man, endorsed the book, he said captivating, enjoyable, easy to follow, market square style. Market square style, not the supermarket. The way the market women talk, the market square. No big grammar. No hidden things. They tell the story as it is. So I wrote the book Market Square Style. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, China. 1,000 games. I'm not sure even those who watches APL from the comfort of their rooms, we've even seen 1,000 matches, not to talk of even going from one location to the other to see over 1,000 games so far. And you see what China has done is what back in the days, there was this guy. If you're an ardent, especially football follower, you must have heard the name Kayode Tijani. He was very, very prolific when it comes to statistics. He was like an encyclopedia of Nigerian sports. Unfortunately, the man passed sometime late last year, and there's basically nothing. He was just contented writing his columns in different newspapers. But what China has done here is to give something back for history purposes. People will go back. Like I said, I don't know even those of us who watch EPL, if we have seen 1,000 games. Ask us to tell, we are all concerned about the last match. And after the last match, it's all gone. Thank you so very much, China Acheru, for putting this book together. Hopefully, someday soon we'll be able to review it. They have just introduced it to us. Hopefully, something very soon we'll be able to review it. We have another book here, Becoming a News Titan, written by Chioma Ezenwafor. If Chioma is here, please. Round of applause for Chioma Ezenwafor.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, and all protocols observed. It's good to be here. And, I find it very significant that I'm talking about this book here today because it's about journalism, a topic that is not talked about very often in gatherings like this, even though they are always there, observing all events and taking notes, custodians of history, and seeing all that's happening. Becoming a News Titan is a guide written for journalists, aspiring, those already practicing, just to get us really close to the core of covering politics and the civic space. For a very long time, I put it down in the book, for a very long time, women have been a part of our polity, but the amount of coverage you've given to them, even though they've been a part of it, you can't tell. There are some names that when you're talking about history, our history, maybe even pre-colonial, there are some women that you just must mention their names. But somehow their stories are not usually very well captured. And so, in my own experience as a journalist, I believe that when we give equal coverage to all of the women in these spaces, whether it's the civic space or the polity, yes, we're going to churn out news titans. We will all become news titans as journalists when we become deliberate about capturing all of the genders and all of the roles they are playing in the polity or in the civic space. Because at the end of the day, when we talk about our politics and when we talk about the civic space or those who want to take action to make our democracy better, and we do not talk about the women and the part they play, and we talk about maybe where they are wearing uniform and where they are dancing, and not the part that they play where they have to sit on the table and negotiate their own part or negotiate how things can also, because what I always say, things affect women differently. Things affect women differently. A conversation that we had during the book signing about 2 weeks ago. When we do not become more conscious about how things affect women, that's where we find where we are now. How we write the stories, and we just, even the way we interview the women in these spaces, I mean, I saw one just very recently, the one-time richest woman in Nigeria or in Africa. And one of the questions they asked her is if she still has time to cook for her husband. And I mean, that question is still very, no one saw any, people didn't say anything wrong with it. But if we can only start asking key issue-based questions when we are talking to this kind of women, and whether they are in the polity or in the civic space, if we can only start asking them the key questions, okay? Like what the passion that drove them to get to that point, perhaps we will start having a more balanced polity. The story can be told, you know, from a better perspective and not just about the male and all that they do. I just wanted to also mention, during the book signing last 2 Fridays, we had someone say that, well, maybe because they are not doing enough, maybe the women need to start doing enough. And what that comment made me think about why I decided to not just put a guide for journalists, but also to put together some of the women and what they have done in the polity and in the civic space. And so that we can have an idea that yes, they are saying something, they are doing something, but we're maybe just not covering them enough. So I really believe that we can all become news titans. Even if you're not a journalist, we have today a mobile phone that everyone here may probably hold. And I mean, we have more mobile phones put up at me right now than the real cameras. And so somehow we have citizen journalists, we have bloggers, we have lots of us who just want to tell stories about things that happen around us. If all of us can start being conscious about all the roles that the both genders play in these issues, is going to obviously mean that we'll have more news titans. And we need news titans in our democracy. We need news titans in our polity. Because no matter what happens, if an Iroko tree falls and no one hears it, I don't think it has really fallen. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Chioma Ezenwafor. Becoming a news titan, a guide for those who are already practicing journalism or those who intend going into journalism. And it's ironical, or should I say, yes, ironical, that the 2 previous editions of August meeting, the 2 books we've reviewed, we've gone through, were both authored by journalists. And incidentally, the 3rd one that will be reviewed today, authored by another prolific journalist. But before we proceed, I want the chairman of the event, Dr. Dakuko Peterside, to react to these 2 books by these 2 great authors.
Thank you very much. Let me start by commending China Acheru for doing this book of adventure, and Stella too, Chioma for doing the book on journalism, what it takes to become a news titan. But then perhaps I should start with China. Very many of us travel for different reasons, but only a few take time to explore the places we visit, to understand what is unique about the places we go to. Perhaps China was not the only person going to different stadiums watching football matches, but he was intentional about adventure. I am sure that going through a copy of this book, many of us will get a spark to visit some of the places China visited. It was in Ghana. Ghana, I don't know, many of you may know, for a very long time, Ghana was like my second home. I go to Ghana every weekend. I have too many friends there, so I go to Ghana every weekend. Beyond knowing a few places in Ghana, I haven't taken time to take a surface view of what's going on in the social circles in Ghana. But that's what this book, traveling, same road, 1,000 times on the same road, does for you. You know, it sparks some fire of adventure and ignites our interest in being intentional about the places we visit. China has not just done our normal book. This is very original, and that's something I've taken note of. It's the story of his travels, but the unique things that happen in his numerous journeys. He's also been able to interpret it through the lens of not just, I won't say a student, a keen observer of events. It's not the story of football, but the story of adventure, the story of intrigues of life. I believe that if you go through this, it also raises a lot of curiosity in you. You will most likely become intentional about things that happen around you. That act is called the act of self-awareness. Many of us are in an environment. We don't make effort to become self-aware. And when we become self-aware, of course, it will lead to other things. When we are self-aware, we discover who we are, we discover our environment, we discover the hidden potentials in us that we never have taken note of before. That's what China Acheru's book will do in us. It will help us discover who we are and what is unique about our environment. What are the underlying factors that drive actions, thoughts, and the things we do? China, thank you very much for these things we did. And for Chioma, it is not very common these days to have journalists take up responsibility. You know, so in our country, we don't have Bolaji Abdulllahi, Chioma Ezenwafor, Simon Kolawole, and all of those generally of journalists. There's something unique about them. They're not just that they report news, they are an analytical mind. The ability to situate current developments in historical context and extrapolating the likely trajectory in the near future. That's what makes them unique as journalists. And so when you read the incisive column, it connects you to the past and transports you to the future. That's what makes them unique as journalists. That's why if you grab a copy of this paper today, I want to read Simon Kolawole, I want to read Bolaji Abdulllahi, I want to read Chioma Ezenwafor. Those are the people you want to read. What are they saying? What is, they're connected to events that have happened in the past, contemporary events, and how it will pan out in the near future. And so, for Chioma, if you want to be a news writer, you must be deliberate about it, you must be intentional. You must equip yourself with the tools of your trade. And what are those tools? You must be correct with developments around you, which speaks to the same thing China Acheru is speaking. Be intentional, be conscious of the things happening around you. Then you must have a keen sense of history. You must be a leader, most important. If you're not a leader, you're likely not going to make a difference. You're not going to make any remarkable impact. And so, what Chioma is canvassing, her proposition, is that for those who want to be news titans, you must understand the power of reading about the past, reading of the situation about the present, and your ability, your mind, the power of the mind to connect the past, the present, and the future. Incidentally, there's something, a common denominator among the three persons who are talking about their books today, or talking about their books. One is the University of Lagos. Two is that they are journalists. Three is that they have inquisitive mind. And 4, they are all adventurers. Welcome to the world of journalists. Welcome to the world of Unilag alumni. Welcome to the world of adventurers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor. But I think there's one part of it that you didn't remember. You said they're all journalists, they're all university, Unilag. You forgot this day. All of them, the 3 of them, from this day. Now we're getting to the, thank you, sir. Now we're getting to the nitty-gritty of the event for today, where the schools will now come forward to do their presentation, their review. They'll be allotted time. They have like 10 minutes each. Hopefully we'll be able to take the 3 of them or 4 of them for this occasion. And they have just one topic. That is the beauty of it. One topic, go through it, study it, digest it, come and present it. What did you learn? What are the questions you want to ask based on that particular topic that you've been given? And the first school that we have here ready, I think Seacrest, right? Students of Seacrest Preparatory School. If you guys are ready, let's have a move forward here. A round of applause for them. A round of applause for them. Please let's encourage them. And like I've been saying, for these are children, it should not all start and end with skits. Let us start encouraging them by buying books for them. Let's start buying them books so that we can start encouraging them early enough to start reading. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Seacrest.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, the representatives of Seacrest Preparatory School. My name is Mufubari Banks. I will be here this.
Hello, Ambassador. Jeremy Acheru.
And you know,
And it says on Wednesday.
We have been tasked today to analyze Chapter 3, The Accidental President. The book on the Platter of Gold by Bolaji Abdulllahi, a journalist cum politician, is both insightful and suspenseful. It mirrors ex-President Goodluck Jonathan's rise to power and his botched re-election bid. My focus, however, is on the 3rd chapter, captioned The Accidental President. This chapter is an eye-opener on the rivalry, intrigues, gimmicks, and power play that characterize Nigerian politics. From ex-President Olusegun Obasanjo's debunking his 3rd term bid to the interference of the United States and other political elites, to Goodluck Jonathan's unprecedented emergence as the president of the most populous country, we see an incessant tussle for power among political juggernauts. Further, in this chapter, we witness how political elites stood up and sidelined after spurious promises of a deserving political position, among other pertinent issues. The book raises questions of interest in zoning, ethnic and religious biases, Marxism, foreign interests in the country's politics, and etc. Considering the language of the book, I'm fascinated by the writer's diction. It's such that even the younger generation will find it appealing. He weaves the story, employing wits and several imagery, understatements, euphemisms, and puns. I consider him a wordsmith. On the first line of page 51, while recounting 1999 George Convention face-off, he accounts, as the story goes, the general soon shelled everyone into submission with the artillery of dollars. Another issue that required my interest was Senator Mansio's reason for defending Obasanjo's tenure elongation after 8 years in power. On page 43, he argues that Asian countries achieve their miraculous growth because they have stable leaders who stay in power long enough to drive these countries to stable economic and social peace. The assertion foreshadows our president's predicament. Is 8 years really sufficient for the president to make his mark and keep his legacy on the country for sustainable peace? The message of the book is imperative in contemporary times, but it seems we are still a far cry from learning our lessons as a nation, given what transpired in 2023 presidential elections. As for me, I learned a lot. President Jonathan was jolted out from obscurity in a short period of time, he was jolted into the second most powerful position in the country, but he took it in his stride. Even though he didn't have time to prepare for the possibilities of what happened to him, he kept the peace and deployed the armed forces to just in order to help the indigenes of Jos because of the terrorist attacks that plagued central Nigeria in 2009. Thank you for listening. At this point, I'll pass the mic to my friends to ask questions. I want to put my forward.
In chapter 3, I noticed that it exposed a great truth about politics in Nigeria. The arrangement that produces the winner in the backstage, even before the official announcement of the winner is made. In most cases, this choosing of names are made based on ethnicity. So could Nigeria's current political issues and regional problems be attributed to this process of unpicking leaders?
There was a lot of hush-hush and reluctance to divulge information about late President Musa Yar'Adua's state of health at the time. Do you think that set the stage, serving as a catalyst for subsequent Nigerian leaders to hide their own states of health while clinging to power, even in the face of their declining health?
Former President Goodluck Jonathan was portrayed as unassuming, humble, and not power-hungry. Yet, he took some decisive steps in his capacity as acting president, sacking the National Security Advisor, the entirety of late President Umaru Yar'Adua's cabinet, and insisted on retaining late Dora Akunyili as a minister despite pressure. Do you think, or do you consider this action as a brave act from a pawn, or do you think he was a brave giant at heart, simply playing the pawn to get what he desires?
It is observed throughout the book that Nigerian women were conspicuously missing in politics, and even when efforts were made to include some of them, they were pushed aside quite very lightly because of the ethnic beliefs of most that the man should come before the woman. It's a Nigerian problem. Should women continue to be relegated to the country? What effect do you feel will be made on the country if the women are involved in politics?
My question is for you, sir, the author. Who are you, or rather, what are you? Do you view yourself as a journalist, or would you rather boast a politician? Given the intrigues during your time in President Goodluck Jonathan's cabinet, how did you maintain your poise as a journalist? Did you bend standards in order to blend in, or did you find yourself a square peg in a round hole?
I'm not sure we're doing this is enough justification. Bolaji Abdulllahi, I hope you're up to the task. Would you rather be a politician or a journalist? I think that is the key question here this morning. It's on.
Thank you very much, gentlemen and ladies, for the honor of inviting me to Port Harcourt. I thank Mr. Demola, especially who received me at the airport and took me around the city of Port Harcourt yesterday. I think I'm ready to write another book after seeing what I saw yesterday. Thank you very much. And, I'm really fascinated with the work that the August team is doing. It's an incredible work. I'm inspired, really. And I'm already thinking, can I steal some of your ideas and replant it in my own local area? Because I can't think of a nobler agenda than what you are doing at this moment. And must say that I'm wowed by the quality of review and the questions from
Young minds.
From the students who came to speak. There's hope for Nigeria. I mean, I keep when you want to give up and you encounter young people like this, you say maybe not in our lifetime, but there's hope for this country. I was telling them this, I don't like yesterday, and I hope that one day our children will look back and say, how stupid were our parents? Why didn't they go do this? This was simple, and they will not go ahead and fix this country. Thank you very much. I don't know if anybody has questions. I was practically waiting for pen and paper. I will just try to answer the one that I remember. If I miss out anyone, I hope someone will remind me. The first question is about hand-picking, whether hand-picking candidates for election is also part of the problem, or the basis for the problem that we are part of this country. I would say yes and no. The ideal thing is that people should emerge through popular participation, and democracy is about people making a choice and deciding who is best to lead them or to govern the state. But real politics works differently. Real politics is about elite consensus. And that is why, and it's the same all over the world, it's not peculiar to Nigeria. It's about people feeling most importantly, who are we most comfortable with. Like in the case of Dr. Jonathan, the power elite were looking for someone that would best match President President Yar'Adua. How would profile President Yar'Adua as a somewhat laid back? He wasn't an aggressive politician. He wasn't someone who was ready to pull down the building to achieve anything. So they didn't want a vice president that would overwhelm the character of the president. They were looking for someone that would match or balance him. So it comes to shopping around for who this kind of person. They are smart people like Donald Trump, people like, of course, your own Peter Odyili, and a couple of other people who were cerebral, who were very forceful and all that. But they didn't match the character of President Jonathan, President Yar'Adua. So they had to look for someone who was equally provincial, as it were, and who could also not be seen to be particularly ambitious. And that's what recommended President Jonathan. So at the end of the day, whether you came up through popular election or through hand-picking, in the case of President Jonathan, in the end, what matters is what you are able to do, how you understand your role, and what you are able to do. Now, the second question is about, that I remember, is about, I remember the last one, incidentally, whether I feel comfortable being a journalist or a politician. Yes, I think being a journalist helped me as a public servant. I actually think journalism is a very good preparation ground for anyone who wants to be in public office, because it gives you all that that people talk about. It opens your eyes, it makes you to see things differently. And incidentally, for me, when I started working in government, I still continue to see everything as news, until I realized that I can no longer report it. Now I'm sitting in a room where news was happening, but I was no longer in the position to report it. So I started recording it and analyzing it in my mind, and that was how we came to the Platter of Gold. Now, I must say that when I was first invited to join government in 2003, working with Dr. Saraki in Kwara, my initial reaction was that I wasn't interested because I was enjoying what I was doing in this day newspapers. And I went to see an elder statesman who was my mentor, Dr. Adelaide Mustafa Akobi of the ICPC, if you remember it. And he said to me, if by joining government you are able to help one child to get education that will ordinarily not get education, it's worth more than 1,000 newspaper articles. if you are able to help a community to get water, that ordinarily would not get water if you did not join government, is worth more than 1,000 newspaper articles. And that's not to devalue journalism, but to say that there is a role for everyone in public service. Now, the mistake that I made was that even when I had joined public service, I still continue to see myself as a journalist and as a technocrat. So when you ask me who I am, I will tell you I was a technocrat. Now, I didn't realize that by describing myself as a technocrat, I was actually excluding myself from the power circle. So when they ask you who you are, who are you, you say, oh, because you think that politics is dirty, it's associated with bankrupt people. So I didn't want to be part of that, so I'm a technocrat, someone who had gone to school, who could think, who analyze things. But what I was doing was I'm actually taking myself out of the room where decisions were being taken. So in the end, by the time I realized, and that was informed everything that I did even as a minister. You know, I was a minister and I believed that all I needed to do was to get my job done. I didn't realize that a minister's position was a political position, not a technocratic position, right? So by the time it caught up with me, it was too late, and I had to be, and I was asked to go. You know, so the point the reason I'm saying this for the young people asking this question, please, if you, by the grace of God, you find yourself in the public service space, you have to be in the public service space. You can't run away from it. That's your destiny as a Nigerian. But when you find yourself there, please don't say you are a technocrat. If it is smelling, be in the room with them. When you come out, disinfect yourself. You have to also say you are a politician and be part of the process. So does anybody remember that?
Yes.
Sir?
I have a question there. Former President Goodluck Jonathan was portrayed as unassuming, humble, and not powerful. Yet he took some decisive steps in his capacity as acting president, sacking the National Security Advisor, the entirety of the President Yar'Addua's cabinet, and insisted on retaining Dora Akunyili as a minister, despite pressure. Do you consider this action as a brave act from the pawn, or do you think it was a brave giant in heart, merely acting the pawn to get what he desires?
No, I think watching him closely for 3 years, from my very low seat, and watching him in his Olympian height as the president. But if you sit in the cabinet, the president's seat is actually elevated. So we are looking up to him. You are forced to raise your neck to actually, that's the architecture of power. I think President Jonathan was a good man. As president, he's still alive. So when I say was, I mean as president. I think he was a good man more than he was a president. I think he was genuine. As when he said my ambition was not what the blood of any Nigerian, he meant it. He wasn't just saying it it was not a sloganeering thing. He meant it when he said my ambition was not what the blood of any Nigerian. Of course, there were things that were done in his name, there were moments that he also slightly succumbed to the power, right? But I think he was essentially a good man. And all that, I don't think he was pretending to be anything other than who he was. And I give you an example. When President Jonathan, and it's in the book, when President Jonathan, when he first assumed office as president, whenever he saw a news story about anybody, alleged corruption or any proper, he will minute on it and send it to people to comment. But when the same newspapers now began to tell stories about him that he knew he was not true, then he began to lose interest in something. And his default thinking is whenever anyone is accused of corruption, President Jonathan's default mentality is to defend the accused. Because he was vice president when this woman, Gray, the Minister of Health, was accused of he knew what happened. Eventually, it was found that this woman actually did not commit any wrongdoing. He saw that. So he knew that, and he used to say that the most corrupt people in this country were the ones who are most prosperous in shouting about corruption. So he wants to defend anybody that is accused of corruption, and he also wants to protect his friends. I think there are people he considers to be his friends, and he feels obliged to them to protect them, regardless of whatever they are doing. And you have a couple like Stella, Stella was a very good friend of his, and when the issue of BMW came up, he was reluctant to take action. Then you also look at that, and then you look at Batinaji. Why was he so quick to let Batinaji go? But I also know that that's the story that a lot of things happened. So people had it on Batinaji. They wanted to get rid of him, and they were able to push the president to say, get him. Even in my own case, when we returned to Abuja after the unfortunate rally in the lorry, and people were going to him, sack him, and the president's response was, look, it's not everybody that has to be a politician. This guy is doing the work that I want him to do. And we were preparing for the World Cup. So why would I sack him? He made those arguments, but still, he could not stop the people who were pushing for me to be sacked. So you can make that whatever you may. Is he a good man? Is he a weak man? Is he but all of that you can say, and I don't think he was pretending about any of them. That's who he was.
I think that was very divisive. But just before you go, let me ask you my personal question. The title of the book, On a Platter of Gold, How Jonathan Won and Lost Nigeria. Was it Jonathan that won and lost Nigeria, or PDP? Or should it have been how Jonathan won Nigeria and PDP lost Nigeria?
PDP people will tell you that they won Nigeria. They will be willing to claim the victory, but they will be eager to tell you that it was Jonathan that lost it. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. Bit by bit, we keep moving on. We have a deadline. I think we have just about 2 more hours to go. And while Bolaji Abdulllahi was responding to the questions, the junior walked into the arena, top by CBA and CD. Can we give them a round? Let us thank you so very much. I don't want to say dividend, but I want to decipher. And we have a representative of Nigeria, Domolo Brings, already seasoned. We have him already seasoned. In case you don't know, High Chief Domolo Brings is playing a very, very pivotal role, especially with the Education Champions League. A very, very pivotal role. It would be out of place to have the convener to actually say a word or two about the Education Champions League so that we have a clearer, a more defining understanding of what the Education Champions League is all about. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll invite Barrister Winnie Dawai to shed more light on the Education Champions League.
Good morning. The devil is a liar. Please pardon my attitude. I'm not the best of God. I didn't even imagine that at this point, this would have gone this year. I'm afraid that I was already we're here. I used to there was something that not been mentioned here about who is coming. I'm sure we know that this is a Ramadan period, and it takes a lot for a foreign Muslim to be around about the place because it's probably with strong stay 3 hours, plus even when he's doing the book is fast. Incidentally, I plan to see him yesterday after Iftar, but unfortunately, it wasn't a good role for me. We can't thank you enough. Thank you very much. Dr. Big side, I want you to thank him because it's his project too. Engineer Operator Bolaji, sorry, I won't thank you too because it's only your project. We are just messengers, and because we are messengers, we only do what you expect us to do. Well, I won't say much beyond that. As for my big brother and the representative of our patron, Chief who incidentally is unable to be here this morning because of something that just came up in his hometown of Abonima, where you all know is a chief. And immediately made sure that his presence was felt. That's why he asked Honorable Ikoji, my brother, my friend, in all ways, my friend, always, the former Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Ikoji, and then supported by, I have this problem with addressing the next person. You know, I was used to call him El Baba. But the man is not a chief. So do I call him the chief? Or Baba the chief? Or Chief the Baba? Thank you very much, my brother. My sis, special sis, the sis behind the scene, always. I won't say this is a sister. Thank you very much for being here. For the rest of you, are no less important than what I've mentioned. Just merely coming here shows that you believe in the little thing we're doing. Your presence means so much to us. You know, we are not involved in a project that is exciting, really. It's something that you can consider a bit boring. But you have seen through it and you appreciate what we are doing. Just seeing you alone encourages us to do more. That extra. And I promise you that on behalf of the ECL and the August meeting, this will only get better. As for Alhaji Bolaji, we will be proud to be consultants. Yes. Incidentally, I spent 7 years of my life in Ilorin, where he's asking me to go back. So I'm very glad to go back there to go and do everything. Support you to do whatever it takes to make this a better place. Ilorin will be a natural homecoming for me. Yeah, like President said, this year, I think standing here sometime in August 2023, you had the inaugural August meeting. We all had Chioma Ezenwafor as our guest. His book, All Politics, was reviewed here. And because of the return that we got from the people who were here, specifically by my brother, Wills, that we need to take this conversation beyond just talking. That we should take up the responsibility of getting our students more involved. And really after that we met and we decided that moving forward, we were going to get involved in organizing something that the school used to get engaged in before when we have governments. I'm not saying we don't want governments now. We want to have people who are bothered about the little details of education. This will appeal to you particularly because anybody who knows you about, who has anything about you, is always talking about your passion for education at the secondary school level. For your information, I don't even know how to say Alhaji or Honorable. He did a book, Sweet 16, right? That was used by Jan for 3 years. That will tell you the level of his passion for schools and education. So we decided that we were going to organize a competition for secondary school children which will deal principally with literature, geography, and history. not deliberately, ask them to buy geography books or read history books, but literature by Nigerians and about Nigeria that deal with our environment, so our children get to know more about their environment and get to understand why certain things happen the way they happen. So maybe in future they will actually say, well, our parents, that's stupid. Doctor have fixed this very easy thing. That is why we came to the conclusion to have the Education Champions League between secondary schools in Rivers State as a startup. We would have loved that it was nationwide, it was regional based and all of that, but these things come with a lot of logistics. So we're trying to manage what we can for now. Later, my brother will formally unveil the Education Champions League competition. Among secondary school students, we have then first round, second round, finals. Hopefully, it will be launched in April this year. Because of the school calendar, we are trying to see if we can just finish it before by May, June, we should have the finals. And God keep it all of us alive. We will probably hold the competition. The venue will be announced moving forward because I'm sorry to say this, I'm not very good at managing certain issues. We'll face very hostile situations being here today. So after this competition, after this round of events, we will sit down and ask ourselves, what is the best way forward? Where can we best have this competition organized so that we don't have people who are very opposed to what we are doing being the hosts of our events. Thank you very much. As I said earlier, Engineer Tobobe will unveil the competition later on in the program, so I don't think it will be fair for me to deal with too much of the details. What's important is that we're having a competition starting from this year. And graciously, we have had 3 very brilliant friends, brothers, who have decided to sponsor this program for the next 3 years. The details we will announce later. God bless you and thank you very much.
As a convener, the August meeting, we engine on the brain behind the Education Champions League. Round of applause once again for winning that. We'll have another school at this point in time to make their presentation. And I particularly want to thank the management of the school. They had serious issues coming from the China school. At a point in time, I thought probably they would choose to go back for the big exam thing. Students from Gold Springs High School. Are you guys there? Are you ready now? Gold Springs High School. Please, let us encourage them as they come forward to do their presentation. Come forward. We have just about 10 minutes to do your presentation. Just like the school before them, they were assigned a chapter in the book, and they will review the chapter, they will give us their views, and then they will ask their questions as well.
Good day, everyone. My name is Bolaji Abdulllahi, and I am from Gold Springs High School. And I'm here to give a review on the novel, on the Platter of Gold, specifically chapter 5, entitled The Wrong Zone. I'll hand over to my colleague who will give a summary and a breakdown of what happened in this chapter 5 on how President Goodluck Jonathan won and lost Nigeria. Thank you.
Good day everyone, my name is Chioma Ezenwafor from Gold Springs High School, and I'm here to talk about the Platter of Gold by Mr. Bolaji Abdulllahi. But today, I'll be starting with how Jonathan won and lost Nigeria. Firstly, how he won Nigeria was very surprising because he won without winning a single vote after the demise of President Musa Yar'Adua. Though he was from a minority group, but luck was always on his side. The first downfall of Jonathan's administration was the insurgency in Nigeria that started on Christmas Day of 2011, which left people in the Catholic Church of St. Teresa injured and dead. Also, in the church in Niger State, people were killed, which left Nigerians paranoid and jumping. I'd like to give to my next colleague to talk about the whole subsidy. Thank you.
My name is and I'm here to talk about the fuel subsidy. On 1st of January 2012, the then President of Nigeria, President Goodluck Jonathan, announced that the increase of the fuel price will be increased by 117%. That would increase from 65 naira to 141 naira. And although fuel has been increased in Nigeria, the fuel price that was increased then was very outrageous for the whole Nigerian community. The fuel subsidy has been talked about since mid-2011, when these allocations to the different states in Nigeria were becoming too slow, and the state governments rejected it twice because they claimed that the NNPC was giving poor remittances to the federal government. So because of that, most of the salaries of the civil workers and state institutions were not paid. The subsidy, the fuel subsidy problem was brought into President Jonathan's hand, and he said the only solution for the fuel subsidy problem was to remove the fuel subsidy entirely. Although it was the best solution at that time, majority of the people did not see that this was right, and this led to a series of conflicts and protests eventually, and I'll give my fellow colleague to talk about it.
Good day everyone, I'm Chioma Ezenwafor. So after Goodluck Jonathan announced the removal of fuel subsidy at the early 1st of January 2012, a lot of civilians were upset and they began to protest. A Tunisian man set himself ablaze, and this action caused a lot of Tunisians to protest and successfully removed the president of 24 years old in Tunisia. This action inspired several Arab countries, and that's what we call the Arab Spring. In Egypt as well, civilians, over 2 million, came out to end the regime of President Mubarak at the time. So other countries were inspired by these actions and these protests. Countries like Nigeria and cities like New York. In Nigeria, several citizens came out as well to protest because of the removal of fuel subsidies. There were plenty of people in the streets at the time, and then apart from the protests, a lot of people came against the president online. His friends on Facebook became his enemies. Citizens in Nigeria spoke bad about the president at the time, and then a lot of people were against him. At the point, a citizen died because of the protest, and then hearing the news, Nigerian citizens judged that a lot of people had been killed, and this gave the president a bad name online and at the country at large. Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Uchiku Boko, and I'm drawing our summary of the chapter to close. So with all these points stated, from fuel subsidy to mass apathy to protest and also to the insurgency in Nigeria, we all see that these were little seeds that were planted to frame Goodluck Jonathan and his administration, faulting them on every side. And due to the civil unrest in Nigeria, it led seeds for him to lose the election against Muhammadu Buhari in 2015. Thank you.
Thank you, students of Gold Spring High School. Round of applause for them. Like I said earlier, at a point in time, we thought we would be able to make it, but the brave heroes and the final announcement. Thank you so very much for finding time to join us. Hopefully, we'll be glad you guys will be part of the Education Champions League. We have questions to ask based on the book. Do you have any? Okay, good.
One of the questions I have to ask is based on fuel subsidy. During the time of Bolaji Abdulllahi, there was a call for fuel subsidy removal, and compared to our present time, there was no call actually. The fuel subsidy was just removed. So I was wondering, what could fuel subsidy do to better Nigeria? Would it better the removal of fuel subsidy improve the Nigerian economy or depreciate it more?
Thank you very much. I congratulate you brilliant students of Great Spring High School for a brilliant review of the chapter of fuel subsidy. The point I would like to emphasize a little bit before I answer your question is that I think the removal of fuel subsidy was the right thing that President Jonathan did at a very, very long time. And as he said, sometimes what is policy-wise can be politically foolish. Like the beautiful students said, not only that the president surprised everybody, he surprised even his own cabinet members. None of us knew that that action was going to be taken on January 1st, 2012. In fact, when it happened, everybody was shocked and we thought that this was Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala's doing. You know, like she had successfully led the president down the wrong path. But when we spoke with her, she also didn't know. She didn't know that the decision was going to be taken for the fuel subsidy to be removed January 12, 2012, the way it was done. And like they also tried to tell us, this was the time that all kinds of Occupy movements were raging all over the world. And Nigerian youth were looking for opportunity to do their own occupation. So it's like the president just gave them something to occupy for, and that was the beginning of the crisis. And I think he never recovered from that, because the base of his support were the young people. That was the time that the social media was actually coming to its own, and he was the president that was benefiting from the power of the social media, mobilizing young people behind himself and engaging them the way he did. So when the fuel subsidy thing was announced, the young people felt betrayed because they would be the most, they would carry the brunt more than anyone else. They were the one that was vulnerable in this case. So the answer to your question is that it is not the removal of subsidy itself that is the problem at the time. It was the manner in which it was done and how well the people were prepared for the consequence of that. It has repeated itself even now, right? Every single person agreed that the fuel subsidy regime had become most bankrupt and corrupt, and that it needed to be restructured or repackaged or dismantled. But Nigerians were not every Nigerian understood the implication and how it will affect their life and livelihood. Today, every Nigerian has been recategorized. It's now a case of minus my brother, Gakuku, and our convener, Kingsley, and a few other people. People like us, majority of Nigerians are in the case of poorer poorest, right? Because of the removal of the fuel subsidies. Even though it was something that was necessary, but the impact, the implication was not clearly explained to everyone. So it is not subsidy itself, it is not the removal of subsidy itself that is important. If you ask me, I think the subsidy should be removed and that money should go into education and healthcare. But the question is, even when you say you are saving money from the subsidy, people will say, so what happens to that money that you have saved? It will probably go into another wrong. So for me, I think the first subsidy is good to remove subsidy, given where the economy is, but there is a lot more that needs to happen before then and after that for the results that was intended to be achieved to be realized. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You guys can go have a seat. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Bolaji Abdulllahi, for that response. Like you said, I think I share his opinion too that subsidy is something that had to go, but probably Jonathan went about it at the very wrong time. Good decision, but wrong timing. And at this point, we are moving forward. We'll have the witness to the reading. ICT expert, forensic security man.
Sorry, I have to interrupt, please. This exercise is an intellectual gathering, it's not a political party meeting. Please, when you chatter behind, you're disturbing the focus of those who are actually having the listening session. You're not compelled to be here. So if you're here, just do us a favor of listening and not holding another conference behind. Thank you.
Thank you. We have our IT expert, forensic security man, an intellectual, Robinson Tombari Sibi. Hope I got the sequence right. Or is it Tombari Robinson Sibi?
Thank you very much. A few months ago, actually, the convener did send me a copy of this book. Hopefully I'm going to end by talking about the incident that happened that day itself. But before then, just to share a few insights as to the circumstances of my standing here. There was no specific instruction, just an invitation. First the book, and then we spoke after that. I knew about the event, and so I generally knew what to expect, but there was no specific instruction. So I knew I was going to be there. I booked the dates, but no specific preparation. I read the book, very, very, very brilliant book, which we'll go to it, but then I didn't do anything about it. And yesterday it occurred to me to call him to say, what exactly do you want me to do in this event? I know it's a book review, so definitely we'll have to do a discussion or a review of some sort. And I advised myself that whoever will beat me up, I tried that. You've been with a book for so many, almost 2 months. And within that period, you didn't ask any question, you were asking questions by this time. So I advised myself, I said, okay, I'm just going to generally prepare. So on that note, let me start, first of all, by recognizing my elders here present, the chairman and the author, my senior and big brother here, my elders here. I recognize you, I thank you for the invitation. And I said, good morning, is it morning or afternoon? Morning to everyone seated here. They set me up by asking me to review the work of a brilliant journalist and someone who is very well respected, someone who I love to read and I love to listen to way back. As I've been introduced, I am not in any way an author in that area, in that regard, so you bear with me with whatever I come up with as a review. So let's roll. On the Platter of Gold, how Jonathan won and lost Nigeria. Now in this book, the author captures the micro details of the Jonathan administration from a uniquely interesting perspective. As a former cabinet minister, the author had full knowledge of the inner mechanics and dynamics of that administration, and including the kinetics of power generally. Synthesizing his unique insights with the perspectives of key inner circle members of that administration, the author shares that captivating story of the meteoric rise and the eventual fall, in quotes, of the Jonathan administration. Written in simple, clear, but very, very creative words, the book is divided into 12 chapters. Chapter 1 captures the captivating rise of Jonathan to being the #1 citizen in the country, rising through the deprivations of his humble background and his minority disposition. A symphony of events, time, and chance conspired to vault him to limelight. The book appeared to have begun from the end, capturing the tense final moments of the Jonathan presidency before working backward to relay the events leading to that period. In what was an unprecedented turn of events, the opposition for the first time in the history of the country won an incumbent president. The author carefully captured this important timeline of our political history, documenting the role of the key actors such as Osita Chidoka, then Aviation Minister, the then Attorney General, and then the very calm but influential Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala and others. At the end, Jonathan did what many did not expect would happen. He grabbed the phone and he made the call even before the count was complete. The author shared the sentiments of the politicians at the time, including those of the PDP stalwarts, who were disappointed with Jonathan's quick concession and the implications they considered to be too hasty. From hindsight, this is rather from my personal interpretation and personal points of view, Jonathan campaigned like PDP, but was quick to concede like someone who lost the election of full gospel businessmen spiritually. And this is not in any way disrespect, but rather enlightenment. It was an episcopal concession, I say. Chapter 2 presented the micro details of the activities to salvage the Jonathan presidency. These were spirited efforts by people who were beneficiaries of that administration and who were close to that government. While some of these events had made it to the national dailies and in fact sounded like watery anecdotes then, the precise account of the author showed a more coherent account. The chapter presented the intrigues and spirited efforts played by key actors of the administration and very importantly, the role played by the state apparatus. The chapter also presented several other events. United States reported subtle support for the opposition, and there are several instances of that in the book. The chairman, the PDP's chairman's post-election stance, and many others. Chapter 2 also presented one of the most tense moments of our history, televised and streamed live. Televised and live streamed. The announcement of the elections by the INEC chairman, and then the charged resistance by Orubebe on national TV. These were very, very tense moments of our democratic process. And I'll end with a story that will tell you how delicate that moment was and how things could probably have spiraled out of control. This was a delicate time in the history of our country, and thankfully, as the author noted, Jonathan's peace declaration was not just a rhetoric. He gets a lot of credit for calming the situation and saying all the right things. Chapter 3 presented the events and intrigues leading to Jonathan's emergence. The author presented the key events in the PDP presidential primaries and the role played by key actors such as Nuhu Ribadu, Malam El-Rufai, and others in foiling the then Governor Odili's chances of becoming vice president. This led to the eventual emergence of the reluctant Jonathan as a running mate to Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, and the eventual emergence as the vice president. Chapter 3 also presented the sensitive issue of President Yar'Adua's health challenge and the issues therefrom. The author presented the key events and the timelines, such as the doctrine of necessity and the roles played by key actors such as Professor Dora Akunyili. Chapter 4 presented Jonathan the rock star. In 2011, he threw himself in contention for the election and made one of the most famous presidential declaration speeches in Nigeria, where one of the good things of the good speech is one which you can take something away. And every adult here still remembers that famous "I had no shoes." I think the closest was Buhari's "I am a friend for everyone and for no one." They stay with you for a lifetime.
And that was a very strong line. I also had the honor of sharing a moment with someone who was in that cycle, who shared how there was a strong debate as to adopting that speech. Everyone in Jonathan's era didn't have a shoe. So, it's not a big deal. But then they were clever. They were targeting the youth who all wore shoes and who couldn't comprehend the fact that somebody went to school without shoes. So very clever. And for those who are political strategists, you know that there are always strategies from across the Atlantic. So on a personal note, you know where that speech came from. President Jonathan had hardly finished taking his oath of office when the bombs started flying. On Inauguration Day, bombs exploded in Abuja. Coincidentally, I was in Abuja that day and I recall how tense that moment was. Leaving 12 dead. This was followed months later by suicide bomb attacks at the police headquarters, very audacious, and another at the UN building, which Boko Haram used to announce their presence in the world stage. Chapter 5 opens with accounts of multiple bomb blasts on Christmas Day 2011 in Madala, Niger State, resulting in the death of 70 persons. On the eve of Christmas, there was an explosion at the Mountain of Fire Ministry in Jos, killing 32 persons. Boko Haram had declared war and was in a full-scale offensive against the Nigerian state. Charred remains and mangled bodies littered the Nigerian landscape. And if you look at the headlines, then very screaming, headlines. And when the children were doing the review, the thing that came to mind was, I hope there was viewer discretion advised, because reading Nigeria's history, there's a lot that we should be ashamed for children to see. So some of those things happened, and the author clearly captures it. The thing with the writer is that his job is to write what he sees, and the author did a very brilliant job in that. The announcement of the deregulation of fuel subsidy was to become a major undoing of the Jonathan administration, at least from a political point. Like the author said, and like the Bible said, everything is lawful, but it's not everything that is lawful that is expedient. The author presented the events following this, the protests by labor and citizens, the shutdown of Lagos, the politicians seizing the moment. The author also nicely drew a nexus between this and the global trend of citizen protests, the Arab Spring, the Occupy Wall Street, and all of the other effects. So they jumped on it, and then you have the Occupy Nigeria hashtag. Chapters 6 to 8 captured what the author called Boko Haram and other demons. The author traced the origins of the sect and the killing of their leader. Following the emergence of this new leader, the group carried out some of the bloodiest attack in the region, leading to the death of over 13,000 persons. Now, there were several events after this, and some attempts by those at the time in government, which sparked or perhaps opened new insights to it. One of these was General Assassin's statement at the then South-South Economic Summit, and we know all of the events that sprang up from them. Can I make a confession? Because if you notice, I started to stutter because the book review had ended. Because I could write, because I did it this morning. So the rest of it, I'm going to freestyle. Okay. Then at the time too, Jonathan administration, and this is very, very clearly captured in the book, they set up committees, and committees at the time to explore options of an amnesty for the Boko Haram, and for which at the time the Jonathan administration, President Jonathan at the time, did staunchly oppose it. He made spirited efforts at, as a last-minute attempt to address, at the time he was accused by the then opposition that he wasn't doing enough for Borno, and he was not he had not visited Borno then. He did, and the elders did call him to order to say, look, you need to consider the amnesty, for which he also still held his ground and insisted that they must give him in exchange an undertaking to that effect. Within this period, several key events happened. OBJ, President Obasanjo at the time also did attempt to intervene, and he met Babakura, who was murdered, I think, a day or two after the meeting. So these were some of the very important timelines that affected the fight against Boko Haram. There were also some other key events. General Mohammed Shua was also murdered. General Buhari, at the time, was nominated in what was not a confirmed call by a certain spokesman of Boko Haram, asking for a negotiation. And General Buhari also did reject that call and declared it as an attempt to link him with the sect at the time. While the author rightly captured the book on the platter of gold, not even the tensile strength of the gold can withstand the sustained bombing the Jonathan administration eventually received. The government, if you look at it and very carefully read this book, you would see that that government would have taken a special kind of miracle, not in the Koski style, a special kind of miracle to save the government. Because the bombs, the charred bodies, the intrigues, the politics, the ethnicity, and all of these things, including the external issues, plus the enforced errors by the administration, it was going to be very difficult for him to have survived that administration. Throughout the book, there were several accounts of sentiments, sentiments of those down south, sentiments of those here. And let me welcome to the author, Nadia, welcome the author to the headquarters of one of those sentiments. This is the headquarters of the the pro-Jonathan sentiment. And there's a reason for that. It's not necessarily because of ethnicity. And there are certain things, and this is deviation from the book, but we're here to discuss, so let's see the opportunity to talk about it. Otherwise, we'll be crushed. And if you look at every time, historically, someone emerges from here, there's a special kind of scrutiny. And that scrutiny is not given to people outside of here. Is it the former governor Rotimi Amechi as minister? Is it the current FCT minister? Is it President Jonathan? Is it Dezani, Alice Mabreke? And this is not in any way saying anything anybody is good or bad, but I'm saying that there is a certain reason why people here always are quick to stand up to say no. So that sentiment dwells here. And as a matter of fact, some of the blanket support at the time, it wasn't because people were not educated, it was because we are all descendants of Harold the Fabulous, the Kemsaruwas, the Birabi, the Oguwali. We have to stand up and say no. It's not necessarily driven by ethnicity, but by survival. And also we have this certain panache around us here that even if we are dying, we try to pay our dues. Very important event that happened, important but tragic, was the kidnap of the lovely girls of Borno State, the Chibok girls, and quite, I don't know what to use, whether ironical or, if you look at, there was actually a massacre of a group of boys, over 70 in that book, I think a few weeks or a month or so before then, they were massacred. Quite curiously, it didn't get as much traction as the Bring Back Our Girls got. Two heavy tragic events that you should never ever allow your children to face that. But unfortunately, I don't know why one did not have as much traction. Maybe it happened because in between several bombing attempts and all of that, and this happened a bit closer to the then elections. But like the book did outline, this was an era of citizen, push, an era where citizens had to stand up. So people stood up and jumped on that event. And the famous hashtag Bring Back Our Girls came up, including over 3.3 million tweets, if I remember correctly from what the book said, in just a few days. And several celebrity artists and even the wife of the President Obama at the time did jump on it. And effectively, if there was a single nail that you say seal the coffin, that arguably is one of those nails that sealed the fate of the Jonathan presidency. Quite strangely, the then President Jonathan did not act swiftly, as history will tell us and as the book clearly captured. It took 20 days before he came out as a person to address that issue. In the heat of all of this off-script address, I forgot the role of the then daredevil Shekau, who was at the heart of the coordinated bombing attacks against Nigeria, and the fact that he also confirmed the abduction of the girls. But very importantly, at this point, if there was anything to completely dismiss the subtle role of the international community, I think one of the clearest signs was from this point. From a data analytics point of view, an analysis of the then Bring Back Our Girls hashtag saw the greatest retweets in the United States of America. And there were also very celebrated quotes from people like McCain, who referred to the then president as a guy called Jonathan. He's going to invade Nigeria rather than wait for the instruction from a guy called Jonathan. We all either applauded or we fumed based on our political leanings, which is something we also need to look at. The fact that someone you understand in your party, who happens to be the president or the governor, is being harassed and some foul words used because it's not in your party, does not mean you look the other way when somebody throws insult at him or attacks him. Finally, I'll try and round off this temptation to keep rounding and going. Finally, the fall of the great behemoth called PDP. I was never a politician, never been one. I don't know if I'll ever be one, never say never. But I was someone who did listen to a lot of BBC growing up. It was a very young kid. And listening to BBC back then, we were inclined to support anything they call the anti-dictators of the Nadeko big brigade. So naturally, a lot of us didn't like PDP. But somehow PDP grew to a point where it was almost impossible to take them out. And this book captured from the details. It's a very nice piece of history book that captures it in a very relaxed manner, from the formation down to when it rose to the point where it was a behemoth, including claims that it will rule for 60 years. The book also captures the events leading to the fall of that government, the walkout of 7 governors at the convention, and the eventual decampment of 5 to the then APC. Much as not many persons gave them a chance, but at the end of the day, the elections came and they lost, and the PDP lost. Now finally, if you take another look at Jonathan's government and what this book presented, you see a sharp contrast, and you see an irony of some sort, that all of the tools and machineries that brought Jonathan into power were the same tools that took him out of power. Social media. He was the first president in this part that had a presence on social media, with several retweets every time at the time he was a Facebook president by CNN at the time. It is the same social media that got him out of office. He came on the popularity of young people who saw him as one of them. It is the same young people that took him out. And so this is a lesson for us And that same tool, that same knife you're using to cut up is the same knife they use to kill a fowl. So, back to in conclusion, and this is not about the book, back to the incident about this book that was delivered to me. And I'm going to share it so that we'll also understand the import of the action that President Jonathan took then, or what some persons call the inaction. The guy who was to deliver this book, I won't mention his name, I apologized again to him outside this morning, was to deliver it to my house. I stay in one of the gated communities, and I needed to call the gate. Unfortunately, the phone was on silent, so he kept calling and I didn't hear it. So he got to the gate and they wouldn't let him in. So he tried to plead with them to drop the book, and they said no, he has to take it back. And somehow, a fight broke out and he was beaten badly. So he dropped the book eventually and left. So when I saw the missed call and I called him, so he said, yeah, he's dropped it, but something happened just in case somebody tells me he wants to report the case. So he reported that there was an incident and he was beaten. In fact, he's bleeding. So I said, what happened? Bleeding? How? What? That's true. This was around 9, 10 in the morning. So he said, he narrated and got to a point that he insulted him. I know, sir. In our pause, I said, sir. At that point, I couldn't take it. So I slapped him. I'm saying this because this is a general tendency of people. The country is even back then. If a normal citizen would slap somebody for pushing him or for insulting him, imagine a president with all of the powers of a president deciding to grab a phone and placing that phone. It looks simple, but it's not simple. Thank you.
Wasn't that interesting? Wasn't that really, really interesting? It practically dissected the entire book. Practically dissected the entire book. And there's something that he said when he was rounding up, as regards probably, and I think all of us will agree on that the same parameters, the same things that catapulted Jonathan to power were the same things that eventually took him out of power. And he made reference to social media. At a point in time, really actually, Jonathan was being referred to as the president of Facebook. There's always one story, very good stories about Jonathan on Facebook. And it got so huge on Facebook that even other countries, Jonathan was trending in other countries. Eventually, it was still the same Facebook that was used to knock him out. Which brings us to what I just met not long ago. It's called the Imperious Syndrome, where your source of strength becomes your source of weakness. At every point in time, review your source of strength so that it does not become your source of weakness. And that's what I would like to call on our very, very special guest to do the final overview of the Education Champions League. Engineer Sam Adoke Tombolo.
If you permit me, I would say we'll have a little break of talent. So as they will say that I come from the corporate world. They said the new killer is sitting for too long. So it's not doing us smoking cigarettes. So while we're waiting for the author of that book, we all please stand up and stretch ourselves.
don't know if there's any yoga expert. Because during this, we tell us to raise our hands. Because taking control. That's what.
I'm not very good to recognize the arrival of President Professor Mrs. Bolaji Abdulllahi. Professor Mrs. Bolaji Abdulllahi. Can please take our seats now? So that it's over now, please. Enough of this. We have to Professor Mrs. President Yala Amadi, thank you so very much for finding time to join us today. And we have one of our Nigerians for celebrating poets and writers as well, Chioma Ezenwafor.
I don't see all.
Please, let's take our seats. Let's take our seats so that we can wrap this up. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, is a chairperson, the chairman of the Education Champions League, as he unveiled what the Champions League is all about, and then the finer details of it.
Permit me to stand on the existing protocol, Mr. Chairman, and the man of the moment. But before I go on to perform the role I'm asked to do, when Casey approached me and asked him, I'm not a politician, just like my friend said, as of today, he says never say never. I haven't heard all that is going on here. If a president could win and lose Nigeria, I wonder what Advocate Chioma will be looking forward to in politics. But before I do that, a lot of times we do not appreciate talent. If you permit me, Mr. Chairman, all of us please come forward. My brother China, please come forward. And my sister, Chioma, I think I would have called you first so that it doesn't go back to what you earlier said, that the women, we always don't see things in the women's life. So please let's give her a round of applause. These two people for today are the reasons why we're here. But a lot of us will not understand the impact they've made in our lives. My question is, we will represent all sectors. Are we just going to hear what they've written and just walk away? It doesn't matter how much you appreciate them, it may not be enough. Because we all went to school and we know what it takes to even sit down and read for a subject. For a few of them to go through and bring up such books, I think the least we can give them a round of applause. And as the lady said, I don't know if it's coincidence, I'm always seeing one copy. Madam, is it by accident that 2 years is not displayed?
It's there.
Where is it? So why did you decide to take this book to cover her own? No, I don't think you see. So I'm defending you now. So, if you will permit me, and everyone here seated make a commitment that we'll all purchase a copy of each of these books. The crap is not enough. Or is the commitment too big? Is the commitment too big? Okay, let me put it the other way around. We'll probably find out what it will cost. That if everyone here has a copy of each of your books and make a commitment that we will read the 3 books, then it will improve our reading culture. Because that's the reason why we're here. We're here to encourage reading. Chairman, sir, probably I will invite you here. I'm not being political, but I'm being real. Because a lot of times we attend location, we enjoy to clap our hands, and we walk away. As we walk away, we keep knowledge with us. Any knowledge that is not shared, help me, is totally lost. In fact, it's not called knowledge. It's just called an activity. So for further communities, I don't know how you want to do it. I don't know if you have enough copies. We have to do it in 2 ways. A lot of times they say nothing goes for nothing. If you share this book free of charge, the commitment becomes less. So no matter, even if it's half price, let everybody sit there, except the students. Please, we cannot tax the students. So for the students, we'll purchase this for all of you that are seated here. But for every other employed or unemployed, one way or the other. I don't know how many you have available, but we'll get a copy for each. Respectfully, Banga and Sarah. It was tough for me to stand before you when Kingsley asked me to come and unveil this. I asked him first, why me? Secondly, what do you mean by Education Champions League? We've had enough leagues. China has told us he has watched over 1,000 football matches. And that's why everybody is interested. If Kingsley has called people and said, there's going to be a discussion on the Champions League, I'm sure this all will not be enough. But today, by His grace, we are gathered to talk about a habit, a culture that is ignored by virtually everybody. Some of us got to where we are because we buy the culture of reading. Growing up, I remember we had a library somewhere around Menenka. But how many of us have gone there to even find out if there are any books in that library? Growing up, the only way you do a day school is whether it has a library or not.
And when we said prep time, most times you find students in the library. And the most quiet places in any academic environment is the library. The library is one place that no matter who you are, as you walk in, the environment humbles you. So the question is, why have we stopped the culture of reading? Even the students who came out brilliantly to tell us what has happened, if I call each and every one of them and ask them, apart from this book and the books for your studies, have you read any book? In our days, we used to have what we call the debating society, and I'm happy one of the products of that. Solely used to be what we have the debater and co-debaters. I hope you remember. And we go school to school with a topic and we'll talk about it. Do we still have that culture? And if no, why? Firstly, I must thank you. Because I don't know, because of the situation we're in the country, a lot of things have changed. But I must also thank Bolaji that you did not write a book about Musa Yarwe. You did not write a book about Obasanjo. You didn't really write a book about the politician of Para State, the rest in peace. They decided to choose one of us and write about it. And they captured it on a platter of gold. I have my personal reservation why you call it platter of gold that we never enjoyed. And whoever left this is going to say the presidency is an opportunity that fell onto us on a platter of gold. We did not fight, we didn't pay. God willed it to us. That's why we lost it. Because we didn't do any of this. So, before we leave here, I will appeal to you for the interest of the students. What do you want the Niger Delta to learn from this book? Are you advising that no Niger Delta should contest for presidency? Or that because we have lost, the opportunity will not come again? Because these persons here, majority represents the Niger Delta. And my brother, when he was reviewing the book, was very open. One thing he does here is that whether you kill us or not, we'll tell you the truth. And for the students, I'm wondering, having heard what you had today, does it encourage you or discourage you from becoming a leader? You must be asking questions. I have very big questions you ask them. But will these books encourage you in your ambition to become the future leaders tomorrow? Ladies and gentlemen, reading is important. It needs someone to drive that ambition. Today, I'm standing here in front of you on behalf of August meeting to launch a program that will encourage our youth, our students, to form the habit of reading. Not just reading, to understand that reading is not just for academic pursuit, but you can apply it in every aspect of your life. Reading gives you confidence. Reading brings knowledge. And with reading,
you'll become a very successful man. It is my great pleasure to invite the representative of the patron, the chairman of the patron, and the author of today. Chioma, I think come and take part of this. And of course, my brother, this love for. And my reverend sister, when I say reverend, my sister, that we respect. This is a please come forward. The prof, please come. It's not easy to become a professor. Alamo, join us. Please come. I will allow the ladies to nominate who amongst the crowd, any of the ladies who want to join us. The great book reviewer, please come. Please. Joy, my sister, one of the most, I would say, straight to the point. I think maybe I will start with you by trying to write a book. That's I really admire courage. A woman that sees it the way it is, whether the right exists or not. My sister, join in this come forward. Please let's applaud her as she comes forward. The great woman of the State. If she was from America, we would be paid to get to see her. Do you have any other person in mind? This, of course, you have to be here with us. So can we have the representative of the students? One male, one female. Anyone? Just students. Nominate one person, male and a female to come. One from one school and the other person. Just, you want me to point? And then here. Any of you come. We're not going to make another sign, don't be scared. See how difficult it is to really nominate a guy to come. Yeah, there's a girl. No, I think one, just one. You come. Come. We are not asking anyone to bring money to this extent. So, listen. Before we unveil the Education Champions League, please, can we go forward to tell us the objective, the expectations, and what we stand to benefit from this championship? So that as we are watching other championship league, we also know that there's Educational Champions League, not just for the students, also for the larger crowd.
Good afternoon. Basically, I think that the whole essence of the ECL can be explained in the course of one speech or the other here, which is basically to help improve reading. Because a society that does not read will have issues with comprehending issues around them. And we found out that one way of getting people to read is to have a competition. That competition will not only be driving and getting who is the winner, but interest too. Basically, if you look at the football competitions all over the world, not everybody who watches matches plays football. It's just the thrill that will drive people to get to read. Like I said earlier on, the whole essence of the competition is to create an atmosphere that will help our younger ones to begin to understand more about who they are through the kind of books that are selected for the competition. In fact, like we don't have that much time, so it will have been a better place to explain the details about the competition. But basically, it is about getting schools around here, which is the Bulacan metropolis, for now, for logistic reasons, to be involved in quiz competitions centered around books that are written about Nigeria and by Nigerians, in addition to what they have in their academic curriculum too. So essentially to drive them towards reading. Incentivied, yes. To the extent that we feel that if you have football competitions, you have what do you call it, Big Brother Nigeria, all sorts of competitions that actually, let's not talk about football, some people don't have value to development. And then what price? First prize, 150 million, 200 million naira. You have a mathematics competition. What's the first prize? 500,000 naira, 500,000, 5,000 naira. You know? So we thought that we had to create something. And we went out of our way, and by the special grace of God, we have a competition that the first winner, the first prize is 10 million naira. And it's structured in a way that the participants will benefit, their schools will benefit, and the structure of the school too will benefit. Why do I mean? 50% goes to the students who actually participated, that will pay into the account into accounts nominated by their parents. 25% will go to the schools, while 25% will be used to buy books that will use to furnish their library. So it's a the first thing that 1 million naira, what they will have is 5 million for the 3 children or the 3 students who participated. We go to the school administrators for running off their program and all of that. Then 2.5 million naira. We use that energy to buy books and supervise the furnishing of the school library. I'm sure we'll work out full time and we'll be public. But like I said earlier on, the competition will start on or about 20th of April. Thank you.
So on behalf of August meeting, and with distinguished Nigerians representing all walks of life, I, Bolaji Abdulllahi, on your behalf, hereby launch, unveil, prepare, kickstart the Education Champions League that will kick off for the interest of not just the participants, but for the interest of Nigerians, and to say that reading is a culture that we should make part of us. So on your behalf, I want to commit everybody standing behind me that we all support this by saying that going forward, we will sustain this championship, and by God's grace, we will not let it die. If we all support this, let us say, aye. Aye. If there is anyone in the crowd who thinks it's against it, say nay. The ayes have it. On that note, to the glory of God, we have launched the Education Champions League on behalf of August meeting. We hope that it will be beneficial, not just to the winning schools, but to humanity and mankind. God bless you all.
Say yes, say yes.
No. We have been approached. Yes, because we are working with new students. So we'll have Mrs. Informa Assistant Coach say a word or two.
Real ambush. I didn't put on the platter of gold. I didn't fight for it either. I'm surprised. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I feel highly honored to be called out to say a word or two concerning what we're here for. A lot of people don't know that I actually read English University. I graduated 40 years ago from the University of Nigeria in Nsukka with a bachelor's degree in English. But I veered out education, and I think that's where most people know me more than the English. But I listened to a lot of the people that have spoken, and one thing stood out to me, which I want to point out, is the neglect of women in all spheres of society. When my sister Chioma was talking about her book, I was surprised that I looked on the table and her book was not there. She actually made a comment and asked a question which was not answered. Why was the richest woman in Africa asked, "Do you still cook for your husband?" I'm not a feminist, far from that. And anybody that knows me knows I believe in the core social values. And those values that you get from the Word of God, which says that the man is the head of the family and the woman obeys him in all things. And it is the duty of a woman to provide for her family, even if you want to be regarded as a proverbial woman. Now, whether you're a billionaire, or a millionaire, or a thousandaire, or a billionaire, it does not stop you from playing your role as a wife and a mother. Therefore, it's not a question that should be asked a billionaire or a millionaire, or whatever denomination, do you still cook for your husband? Because even as I am here, I'm not a millionaire, I'm not a billionaire, but I'm a wife, and I'm a mother, and a grandmother. So before I came here, not knowing when I would finish, I made sure that I woke up very early. I prepared my husband's breakfast, and I have prepared his lunch, so that when I am late coming back home, he will still eat his food prepared by his wife. Whether she's a millionaire, or a billionaire, or a thousandaire. You don't abdicate your role as a woman or a wife. Point number one. I hope you've gotten a little bit of clarity. Now, secondly, in our society, I have noticed particularly that women lose their identity to their husbands. I think it's only now I have been referred to as Mrs. Ifeoma Osije Okocha. I was born as a daughter, became a sister, became a friend, even before I became a wife. Therefore, my identity as a daughter, as a sister, as a friend, should not be overridden by the fact that I'm now the wife of a man known as Enwa Osije Okocha, SAN JP Oefam. I am very proud to be his wife, and my children will say I do add Osije Okocha to my name. But that does not mean that I want to lose my identity and just be referred to as Mrs. Osije Okocha. That I'm not a billionaire in the petroleum industry, I'm not a renowned jurist, I'm not a renowned politician, does not mean that I cannot be accorded the respect that I duly deserve as a human being to be called and acknowledged as Mrs. Ifeoma Osije Okocha. And that is what society is getting away with. And that is why a lot of women are shying away from coming out into the public and shining in the way that they should shine. I have toyed with writing books because that is my original profession and my original talent. But then I wonder, if I wrote Ifeoma Okocha, would it sell as much as if I wrote Ifeoma OCJ Okocha? I leave the answer to you. So most women that don't come out in politics and come out in governance also ask themselves the same questions. Do I come out as a woman in my own right, or do I come out under the umbrella of my husband and the party? So today I want to encourage all of you, that's been an aside, to go back not only to the secondary schools or the universities, but to the nursery schools where I got started and cut my educational prowess as a nursery school teacher in my own nursery school. Give every child, from birth, a book. And encourage the children to be read a book every day and encourage them to read. There is no child I know that I go to visit when they are born or they celebrate a birthday, that one of the gifts I give is a book. And I encourage my children to read to their children. And my grandchildren know that when they come to grandma's house, they are read a book. And they remind their parents in the night, when I'm in grandma's house, she reads a book to me. So their parents read books to them. The phone, the iPad, has taken away our individual quest for knowledge. My grandson, my last grandson so far, is a year 3 months. But believe it or not, he knows what an iPad is. He knows where I keep my iPad. And once he opens the door, he says, "Gamma, iPad, open." And I say, "No, Ezra. Book, open." So if you wait till they are in secondary school, it's a bit too late. So I will encourage you, August meeting, as you start with secondary school, let us move down to nursery school. Because by the time they're in secondary school, it's not late, but it's a bit too late. So I thank you for honoring me by asking me to speak. I hope I have not veered away too much. My brother Kingsley is watching his time. When you give a teacher a microphone and you don't tell her how long she should speak, and she's also told that she's a reverend woman, so I can be a preacher. And you don't give preachers time limits. You might show them the path, but they will ignore you. So on that note, I encourage everybody, and our chairman, who has graciously launched this Education Champions League, I promise you that in my own little way, I will support. And I will bring a couple of people that I know that are interested in the reading culture. I want to say thank you to the author of the book and all the authors of the book. Indeed, none of us get anything on a platter of gold that is worth keeping. So I ask all of us to work diligently towards what we intend to have and what we want to be in life. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. Thank you. Will now be the center of attraction. This is a moment we'll need to dissect the book extensively and then open our eyes to probably some of the things we didn't pay attention to. As I welcome you, I'll ask this small question again. Jonathan, towards the end of his administration, leading to the 2015 election, was referred to by so many people as weak and clueless. Really and truly, was Jonathan weak and clueless? Ladies and gentlemen, I invite Bolaji Abdulllahi.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Once again, I want to thank the August meeting for the honor of inviting me here to the great city of, and the historical city of Port Harcourt. I want to thank all the wonderful people and the students who have chosen to spend this morning and part of this afternoon for this event to listen to us and to talk about our modest effort in the art of writing. Let me say that I'm not going to talk, I'm not going to review the book. I think the reviewer did a very good job. You know, there was this joke about someone who applied for a job and the employer, the prospective employer asked him, "But you are too old for this kind of job." He said, "That will be old, now old." So the guy said, "Now ordinary old, if you come old, join. What will happen?" You know? So he said he didn't have time to read the. So if you have time to read the book, what will happen? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So like I said, I'm not going to detain us here by reviewing the book again. I will only say a few things that I think can help for us to think a bit more about what is going on around us. And Sir Adoke made reference to one of them that is very dear to my heart. On a Platter of Gold is just a journalist trying to practice history. I had the privilege of sitting in that government for 3 years. And as a journalist, it was the first time that I was encountering government at the highest level. And like when I said President Jonathan said he had no shoes. What I found quite astonishing, and this is very significant, was that when I spoke with Labaran Maku, the Minister of Information at the time, when we were getting to just know each other, he said the reason he went to school was that he was the most useless child on the farm. That he was just donated to the god of uselessness. That look, you know, that his parents believe he will amount to nothing. So let him be the one that donated to the school. That's how he went to school. And when he came home and he said he came third in the exam, the parents were shocked. We know that you are useless, right? But we didn't know that you will even take your uselessness to that point. How many of you were in the class? We said there were about 40 something. Out of 40 something, you were able to get only 3. 3. What happened to the remaining 40 something? And when I spoke to almost everyone in the room, all of us, almost all of us, including the president, was in charge of one poor person or another. Including myself. My father was a tailor. My mother was a petty trader. In fact, I didn't start to speak English until I was 11 or 12. I was born in a village in Niger State called Kontagora, a village under, not even the Kontagorata, a village in Kontagora. My first encounter with English language was in Hausa. Yeah. I was taught what is a noun in Hausa. Suna Mutunko, Suna Muriko, Suna Abushile now. The name of a person, animal, place, or thing is a noun. Abin da ya ba mu labari akan noun shine adjective. Kalmar da ya ba mu labari akan verb shine adverb. That's how I was taught in English language at the beginning of my life. Now, I met Dr. Saraki when he won the governorship election of Kwara State and was looking for people to come and work with him. Then said, there was one Kwara in this day newspaper. I think you should talk to him. That's how we came in, and it was a long time that eventually I did. Now, the point about that is that I asked myself, the gap between Dr. Saraki's father, Oloye, the great Oloye, the gap between him in social terms and my father, the tailor, is like, how many lifetimes?
1,000 lifetimes.
1,000 lifetimes. Now, the gap between me and Dr. Saraki, the son of, what is the gap?
100 times.
No. Maybe 10 times.
Now, within a generation, that 1,000-year gap was closed. Why? I went to school. That's all. Now, the gap between my children and Dr. Saraki's children. No. One of my daughters was with KPMG in London. There is a cloud engineer. If you ask me what it means, I don't know. You know? So, I'm saying this to emphasize that many of us rose to where we are because we had hunger in our belly. It was easier to climb on an empty stomach than a full stomach. It was the hunger that drove all of us. 42 people taking the decision for Nigeria at the highest level, and more than 90% of us were children of poor people, including the president. Now, the biggest challenge that we have, how do we then translate the same hunger to our children even when they have so much to eat? This is the fear. This is the fear. We sit in this room because we can afford more to work today. That's why we are able to sit here. It means that we can feed our children, we can send them to schools like this. Please, the students, Green Spring, other schools, these are elite children's schools. Don't take your privileges for granted. 99% of Nigerian children don't have the opportunity that you have, so don't take it for granted. Now the question is, we were able to relate with Dr. Jonathan. Like someone said, it wasn't special that he didn't have shoes. And that was what appealed to Nigerians. Now, I think I've been with someone who took me to his room and wall-to-wall wardrobes filled with shirts and shoes. And I asked him, what the hell is going on here? And he said, because when he went to law school, he didn't have a shirt. He borrowed somebody's shirt. And even before he left the venue, the person was asking him to return his shirt. So that appeared to have done something to his head. So when he could afford it, he was buying shirts. Some he had not broken from their packets since he bought them maybe 5 years earlier. Unfortunately, we don't wear the same. I will have helped myself. So people react to the reality of their background differently. Some people, that their background of deprivation become the impetus that they need to become extraordinary. Ordinary people who end up doing extraordinary things. Some people, they become captive to that background. So when I was writing the story of Dr. Jonathan, I was looking out for moments that can show whether he was able to break out of his background, or he was able to, or he allowed himself to be held captive by his background. And I'm telling you, it's not just Dr. Jonathan. When I saw the former vice president, and I listened to him for the first time, Professor Chioma Ezenwafor, his worldview appeared to him to be just Lagos. He's a professor of law, extraordinarily brilliant man, but his worldview is Lagos. So I think in a way you see so many people, you understand that when they get to the national space and begin to take certain decisions, to what extent the reality of their background inform what they do and what they don't do. Like I try to explain in the book, even among the Ijaw nation, Dr. Jonathan was seen as a minority from what they are speaking. So they didn't even really see him as Ijaw. So there was a sense of condescension and patronizing, even in the way that they related to him. They felt that they were going to save him from himself and compensate for his weakness, because he's not really Ijaw in the real sense. So, in looking at all this, we need to examine history. History. When people are preparing for leadership, we talk about how they need to be well educated and competent and all that. But we neglect history. More often than not, what Nigeria should be doing today is to make it compulsory for every Nigerian child, whether you are studying physics or astrophysics, to study history. And I'll tell you why this is important. Or cloud engineering. Or cloud engineering. No, or cloud engineering. They should study history. Now, so I don't care. Wonder why I didn't write about someone from Para or someone from, you know, say, okay, look, you know, we Ijaw people, we Rivers people were held, Delta, Niger Delta, right? Were held to different. The point is that I tell people I'm not Yoruba, they don't understand why I'm not Yoruba. They say, if you're not Yoruba, then who are you? I say, I'm from Ilorin. They say, how? But you speak Yoruba. I say, yes, the same way Americans speak English. But that doesn't make them English. Then I go into the story of how Ilorin was a northern border of the old Oyo Empire. And because of its location, it attracted different ethnic groups who arrived as slaves, or as merchants, or as scholars, and all that. Right? And out of a mixture of these different ethnic groups, a culture was created. Right? There were the Nubes, the Baribas, the Yorubas, and the rest of them. Hausas, the Fulanis. Then the jihad of 1804 happened, and everybody, Islam became a state religion, and everybody was rallied under Islam. So, and a new clear identity was created that is not Yoruba completely, that is not Hausa, that is not Fulani, that is not, it's just Ilorin. So today I'm from the southernmost northern town that is Yoruba speaking, so I'm minority of minority. So if you think you are minority, I'm actually minority of minority, right? So the chance of me becoming the president of Nigeria is actually more remote than yours. Because I'm North, if the North needs me to count the numbers, but I'm not North enough when I need the North to make up my numbers. But this kind of background is quite important. So when I was writing this book, I wasn't thinking of Jonathan as a southern person. I was thinking of him as the president of Nigeria who had gone through a political experience, and it's not a comment on the fortune or misfortune of the politics of the South. Now, to another point that I made about history. Have we ever wondered how our people were organized before these Westphalian borders that create territories that we call Nigeria, the Republic, Nigeria, and all that? The Kano Empire at some point, and I'm saying with due respect to those who are historians in the room, I'm not a historian, I'm only a student.
The old Kano Empire was considered by the Ottomans as the hinterland of what they call Tripolitania, that is Libya now. And when they move on their trade, they move across Darfur to Libya up north. The trans-Saharan trade that lasted for centuries. Our people moved from the Hausa lands, Kano for example, and moved across the Sahara Desert, depositing populations along the way up till the Maghreb. Then one major event happened in the early 19th century, the Jihad of Osman Danfodio. People don't pay enough attention to the significance of that. Then created one single empire that spanned from Burkina Faso today up to the plateau of Adamawa in Cameroon. Right? No Nigerian map as we know it now. The Sokoto Caliphate of the early 19th century extended, like I said, as far east as Burkina Faso, far west as Burkina Faso, far east as Cameroon, and far north as the southern Niger at the moment. Then Nigeria was formed. Did we suppose that the creation of these new borders of Nigeria will therefore obliterate the cultural identity and relationships of the people that have interacted for thousands of years before the borders was created? Therefore, the man who lived in Sokoto today, Kano today, Katsina today, Jigawa today, do they feel more connected to Nigeria, to their kings in Niger? They cannot feel, and that is why if President Bolaji Abdulllahi had been more of a student of history, he would have known that when you say you will invade Niger because of the coup, you are actually saying that you will attack the families of your own people. And you could see the way the North quickly rallied to say, no, an attack on Niger is an attack on us. Now today we look at the North and say this is a very poor. Why are they so poor? Why are they so poor? They were not always poor. Kano was one of the richest metropolises in southern Sudan. But when the white man came and constructed the railway from Lagos to Kano in about 1911 or so, what happened? The economic orientation of the North shifted southward, and that was the end of the trans-Saharan trade. The collapse of the trans-Saharan trade created a new generation of poverty across the Sahel. So when you say you have Boko Haram or any kind of militancy or banditry, without trying to explain them, without trying to justify them, they have historical background. So when the North is behaving the way the North is behaving, if we understand this historical orientation, we will understand why the North is behaving. Just like if someone from Rivers is behaving a particular way in relation to the nation state, if I understand the kind of situation you are trying to explain to me. So they're not just Hausa Fulani. There's nothing like Hausa Fulani hegemonies trying to conquer Nigeria. There's no such thing. It's our historical illiteracy that creates that kind of template thinking that makes us. So I'm saying all this to emphasize that history is at the heart of everything. Look at it, what countries surround us? Benin Republic, Niger, right? Chad. All of them are French-speaking countries. But how many of us speak French? These children are going to be leaders in this country. They don't speak French. We've already disadvantaged them. We are surrounded by French-speaking countries. I went to Togo. The moment I crossed the border, I became an illiterate. Then we can make up for this. We can begin now to groom these children to be deliberate leaders of Nigeria by understanding Nigeria's neighbors and Nigeria's neighborhood. When we say arms were being smuggled in from Libya to Nigeria to strengthen Boko Haram, some of us wonder how is that possible? But there are roots that have been established for thousands of years
when people were going to Mecca from Nigeria through that same channel. And those who were smuggling weapons know that route. That route is still there. Jaffa up to the Hijaz. It wasn't known as Saudi Arabia, it was called the Hijaz. Now, so it's important for us to understand. So what I've done is on the Platter of Gold is just a modest way as a journalist to try to practice history, because like Mila Kundera said, he talked about people who, he wrote a book he called the Book of Laughter and Forgetting, while people who like to laugh and forget and just move on. One of our national is moving on. Moving on. Now, to conclude, the biggest challenge, we like to think that we are diverse people. Of course, we are diverse people. But it is not the white man that introduced the Igalas to the Igbos. It's not the white man that introduced the people of the oil protectorate to the Sokoto Caliphate. They knew one another. They did businesses together. They fought wars against one another. One of the kingdoms in Ekiti, the title of it is Ata. Ata is an Igala. They are basically Ekiti. Ayede Ekiti, the title of the traditional is Ata of Ayede. There is a story behind that. So we are essentially the same people, and what binds us together is more than what. We are not even as a country like Spain. I was astonished to find that Spain does not have, it is the only country in the world that does not have a national anthem. Yes, because they could not agree on the wordings of the national anthem. At least we have a national anthem, right? The most important thing, therefore, for us, this generation, how do we create a national story? Because we say China was able to transform, but China had a national story that they were able to use everybody around. Rwanda had a national story that derives from the genocide, and they are making something with it, whether you like what's his name, Kagame or not, right? Now the big question for us is, how do we create a national story around which everybody can believe? It is only when we are able to create a national story around which everyone can rally, can understand. And it's going to happen. We will die off. These children, they don't understand Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba. They don't understand. In fact, the world is a space for them. Because they know that you can sit here in Rivers and work for a company in Germany or Brazil. I was going to London some time back, and I arrived with these children, and I was very ashamed of myself. The British Airways was like a school bus. The schools were resuming, and Nigerian children were being shipped into the United Kingdom for secondary education. I was really embarrassed. It was as if people knew me and said, you are a minister in that country, and you people cannot even give your children basic education. Then I saw this young, a boy about 10, 11, he was crying. He had an elder sister with him. I said, why are you crying? He said, I don't know, I don't want to come. I don't want to come. Then I asked the sister, why is he crying? He said, no, because he didn't want to come to school. And I said, okay, don't worry, you will soon get another holiday and go back home. By the way, where are you from? No, what's your name? He said something, show me or something. Obviously, Abeokuta, right? He said, show me. And I said, where are you from? He said, I'm from Wuse 2. Who gets to come from Wuse 2? He said, from Wuse 2. Then I asked the sister. The sister said, don't mind me. We're not from Wuse 2, we're from Abuja. As we speak, if they ask your child, whether he's from Rivers, he's likely to say that's where my father comes from. He's a child of the world. These children look at the world differently. They don't see this Igbo, Yoruba, Hausa, Muslim, Christian stuff that held us back. This country, these children will build a different country. And we cannot give up. Because when we say every single day, to build a nation where peace and justice shall reign. Madam, I'm glad you introduced yourself. I haven't studied English. To build, that's an infinity, right? To build a nation. The work of building a nation, it means that 1,000 years from now, Nigerian children will continue to say, to build a nation. That means that job will never be done. So when people say Nigeria cannot work, I say, how stupid can anybody be to say that? Nigeria will work, whether we are there or not. And no matter what level, these children will grow up and they will build a new country. And their own children will still come and be saying to build a nation. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so very much. Our special guest, author, thank you so very much, our very special guest, Bolaji Abdulllahi, prolific columnist and writer. So many things he touched on, and I think at this point in time we are almost at the expiration of our 3 hours schedule for today. He has a flight to catch, and we will ensure that it doesn't miss that flight. To wrap up for today, we'd like to call on Honorable Ikoji. For most people who roasted down to the assembly, to do the closing and assembly and the please.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me borrow from engineering. I'm studying on all protocols, courtesies, and cordialities, because you asked us to move around. I don't know whether to start with Sister Informer or the last speaker. I listened to you, sir, very well. And I was just thinking that your last prescription in your historical perspective actually resulted in the forming of such things as National Orientation Agency. We need value reorientation, honestly. It also led to the formation of something like NYSC, where you posted to some culture outside your culture, believing that by the time you let other people and come back, it will help to foster national unity. But unfortunately, we are where we are today. I'm holding the brief for my friend and brother, High Chief Jumo Lulubris, and I want to commend those who sought out the ECL. I want to commend their pioneering spirit. It reminds me also of the concept of the university. I see professors here. I see Professor Chioma, Professor of English. I didn't know Informer studied English. The real, frankly speaking, the concept of the university is to build a city on the universe. It's an intellectual city. But today, you have people who prefer to go on a mental holiday, where you have the cessation from cerebral activity. When I was young, like I became reminded us, my father started introducing us from primary school. Those times we read bedtime stories. So you just pick and you read. And we gradually started growing from there. We started buying on our own. And what our parents buying, we bought things like Handy James, the ladies bought Mills and Boone, Agatha Christie, and so on. That was how we grew. We now read Bassey and Company. Chioma, with all due respect to you, you know, like my sister former answered you. I think this thing had to do with creation, where women were not frontal. Even the Bible said you were the weaker sex, so you were protected and shielded and allowed to not play subordinate role, but on the background. So even, frankly speaking, women appeared on television in such programs as Toma Pep, where they were teaching. Am I communicating? Yes, Toma Pep, that's how we started seeing women on television. Then you started Western movies, you started seeing Chinese angels. 3 women all listening to one unseen Charlie, but they were carrying out Chinese beatings. It's not our making. So when they started women's sleep, I said, no, it's not women's liberation, it's men's liberality. Where women are increasingly allowing women to enter the top where women were not allowed. And to encourage women, you even have ministries like Ministry of Women Affairs, even when women are in every other ministry. So women are being encouraged, you know. ECL, I thank you. Advocate, remember so I was debating in the secondary school. I was in class 3, I was president of Junior Wing Debating Society and the only junior student debating in the senior wing. Now, if you want to clap, yes. I attended government comprehensive secondary school in Port Harcourt. There is an unwritten law where every social prefect of government comprehensive was the chief speaker of the school. And you controlled even the field club and so on. So by the time I became social prefect, it was already known that I was social prefect in our set. You are at a pioneering role, and I want to commend you. Like Joe says, I should come and encourage you. It is what the Greeks emphasized in their humanism: a sound mind in a sound body, mensana in corpore sano. You know, so we are looking at these people. If you're looking at tomorrow, they are not just future leaders, they are the intrinsic link between today and tomorrow. So it's good to be to inculcate these values, that they will grow with these values as they grow up. Nigeria needs real reorientation. I even think that, like they do in America, sir, you cited those children. The Bush family had 2 governors, brothers, siblings, the governors of different states, depending on where they were born. So, an Igbo man who is born from Borno should not be from Anambra. That's why she should be from Borno State. So, in a family like my father had 9 of us, we could have come from 9 different states. How would you then practice ethnicity in such a family where we are from different states? I think we should also begin, as we propagate these new values and these new ideas, look into such areas. Having said that, with NYTH travels in the guides of language. Language is very important. So we should be able to begin to look for words that help to build us together, languages that will beat down group and personal interests with an overriding national identity. Then we'll be going to where we are going to. I thank you because you are liberated. You know, having listened to you, you are not from Kwara State, but you are first a Nigerian who comes from Kwara State. That's how I see you. And that makes a difference. I hear others who say, one of our big names in Nigeria said, I'm first and foremost a Northerner before I'm a Nigerian. So I have to think where I come from before I think Nigeria. I believe that Nigeria is experiencing a rebirth for what we are seeing here. You know, so this is a garden of thinkers. We will not give up. It was Confucius who said that the essence of knowledge is having it to apply it. Knowledge that is not applied is wasted. So let's begin to think of how to apply our knowledge so that when we say our fathers, thank you, sir. If I went to history and you are a writer, a work of art catasizes the author because it's a product between the relationship between the author and the society. So in your writing here, you are giving us a political paradox. A president that won and lost at the same time is a paradox. You know? So a writer becomes the visionary of his time. You write in a historical milieu. So you are not writing outside society, you are writing as a product of society. Unfortunately, you have gone through it. I was telling Chioma, when Chioma was talking about journalists during the interval we had, how a journalist can write freely like you know, people like I say, no, are you forgetting that this man has risen to be a minister? He can. If you are working in Radio Rivers and you are signed, your beat is where advocate is, you do not have freedom to express yourself because of the editorial policy of the medium you represent. Otherwise, they will drag you back to the labor market. your gun will search you if you take his bread and butter. So you are there, but before you get those information, but you will listen to the heartbeat of your employer before you put down something, otherwise you embarrass the medium, and of course you get ready for the consequences. Having said that, on behalf of High Chief Tumo Lubis, I want to assure Kingsley and the other organizers that he says that he will support this with the last pint of blood in him. Thank you.
I think we can do 5,000 seconds. It goes a long way, man says he will support something in the very last blood in his vein. And on behalf of the Education Champions League, we want you to please convey our appreciation back to High Chief Tumo Lubis that we highly, highly appreciate his efforts. Thank you so very much. At this point, I think we're good to go. Bolaji Abdulllahi will sign some books that will be shared so that he can make it back to his to the airport early enough for him to catch his flight. I don't know if the chairman of the trustees will say a word or two before we declare him very formally closed. So the Peter side, is he still around? Okay, so he's very good. Let us close it down now. Many thanks to our very, very special guest. Thank you for coming.
Let me on behalf of the board and the members of the management of the hospital, everybody here present. Like I said in my opening speech, this is the third of the series we are going to have. There's another one in August, and we expect to see indeed everybody here present and more. We'll try and ensure that the invite goes out a little bit earlier and personal that you did this time. Thank you. This is really overwhelming. And let me also add that we don't know it all. We don't know it all. The channel is open. If there are suggestions you want to pass on to us, if there are messages, encouragement.
Nothing is too small for you.
Nothing is too small for you. Nothing is too small for Imo State.
Imo Airport.
Imo Airport. Nothing is too small for Imo Airport. We thank our guests. We thank the Chief of Villa. We thank the chairman, my younger brother. We thank our chief for finding time to come. And indeed, even if it's not another review of your book, we pray that when we send an invite for our next episode, just come and visit Port Harcourt. We guarantee that DSA will take you around. Will take you around to Chief Tumo Lubis. Thank you. To Chief Caesar.
We'll make a chief.
He's
Menebua somewhere.
Menebua. We thank you. Just like the author said, if he had sent you the book like 2 months ago, we would still have been here. And to every one of us, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll call on the students to have a photograph with our special guest, after which we'll have some time with the students. Please come forward. Students, please come forward. Come and have a session with the author. We're sure this will go a long way to motivate the students. Our photographers are really please.
I didn't join us.
Session review. Where is Chioma? No, join them. No, this is still a thing. Let's join them. You can capture all of them at the same time. Please join them, join them. Go to the other side, go to the other side. Don't say go to the other side. Great guy. Mix up. You don't need to stay together. Please come this way. Yeah. Are we doing? Okay, I'm not long. Oh, you shine the fire here. Yes, perfect. You should be perfect. Is that what you want to do? Yes. Check on the rules. Chioma, do you have a voice with you? Okay, can you tell all the children? That's fine. The others are already appending their signatures. I think it's called